Alison from Alison Answers and Logger Counseling Services. Today we're going to have a real talk, and I want to ask you guys about your perspective on your lives. And I know that the world is desperate for honesty. They're desperate for vulnerability and authenticity. I know that I am. I hear over and over again, I'm an avid podcast listener, motivational speaker listener, reader. I'm always looking for ways to create a better life for myself, to understand things more deeply. What I have found over many, many years of my life, I have found that the thing that really resonates with me and helps me to be a better person, helps me to be a happier person, is when I hear someone connect with me in their vulnerability. When I hear a person who is successful, who is dynamic, who seems to have it all together, when I hear them share their frustrations, their fears, their troubles, I feel better. I feel like I'm not alone. And I think the majority of human beings really, really need that right now. We're living in a world where there is not a lot of honesty. We're living in a world where there is so much scrambling for truth. People are looking for an answer. People are looking to feel better. People are looking to be approved of. That's why social media is so rampant, with people just trying so hard to be seen, to be heard, to be loved, to be approved of. So I'm here to tell you how to take chicken shit and turn it into chicken salad. And I'm not kidding, because if anyone was looking from the outside at my life, you would see someone who is successful, who's owned a business for 30 years, someone who has a business that has never stopped growing, someone who has a house in New York and a house in a resort community that is beautiful. You'd see someone who has all these different cars. You'd see someone who seems to be all together. And what I want to let you know is that there has not been 1 inch of this life that I have not worked my ass for. Okay. There is not 1 inch of this emotional life that I live that I have not done the research, the facing of the truth that has brought me to where I am. And this is the biggest wake-up call there is. I wrote a book called The Wake-Up Call, basically, and it's about to be launched. Don't buy it yet because it has to be launched first. But what I want to tell you about it is that is my desire in life, is to wake everyone up to the truth. And the truth is that every single one of us has the ability to create the life they want. We have the ability to change the life we're in. We have the ability to take difficult times and turn them into beauty, restore things that are ashes into beauty. What I want you to fully understand right now is that each one of us is Dorothy in The Wizard of Oz. I love that story. Dorothy was in search. She was trying to find home, right? She wanted to get back home. She wanted to get back home, and that's all she wanted, right? But then Glinda comes to her and she says, you had the power all along. You had it inside of you all along, dear. And the truth about each and every one of us is that we have it inside of us all along. We're searching and we're searching to be loved, to be known, to be seen, to be successful, and whatever that actually means in our lives. Really, what does that mean? The truth is that we are in search of home. We are in search of understanding ourselves, why we're here, what's my purpose, how can I reach my highest heights? There is a spark inside of every single one of us that is desperate to be expressed. And we are in a community, we are in a society, we are taught from day one to suppress that spark. I am here to wake you up. We all have a rarity inside of us, a uniqueness inside of us, yet we're all drawn toward being the same so that we're not excluded. This makes every one of us feel so alone. Because in order to feel connected, we have to leave ourselves. We're taught to lie about our feelings. We're taught to lie and not tell the truth about the struggles that are inside. And I do believe we've been sold a bill of goods. I'm going to be as honest with you guys as I can right now. I am certain that our society, whatever our world, we have not been told the truth. And the truth is, and maybe for a long time, people didn't know it, but just like electricity was harnessed, the power of our thoughts needs to be understood. If you look into neuroscience or quantum physics or anything, this is science. This is not woo-woo shit. We have the capability to take any experience and transform it into something else. And what I want to explain to you is that we have what we call an inner world. Our inner world is actually our outer world as well. Because in our inner world, we have thoughts, we have feelings, and we have belief systems, and they're all based in our biological network, our operating system. If we do not know the truth about our operating system, the body that we live in, we are going to be listening to it and following its commands every single solitary day. That was my watch telling me to repeat myself. So what I want you to get is that in order to have the life you want, you have to understand not only your body, your thoughts. Your thoughts run on a loop. We have 65 to 90,000 thoughts a day. 91% of those thoughts are the same thoughts we thought yesterday, and we keep repeating them. They run on a loop in our system, our body. They run on a loop, and they're repeated over and over again as electrical impulses that we believe and follow. This is a very serious matter. If you are not awakened to the fact that there is a loop running in your brain that's basically recorded, we're just a record of a bunch of experiences and the meaning that we've attached to all of those experiences. If we do not awaken to that fact, we cannot change our lives. Nothing changes until it becomes what it is. So hear me on this very important fact. We also are addicted to the feelings that we feel the most. So as we go through our life and we attach meaning to all the different experiences, the nuances that are being thrown at us from the time where we awaken in this world, we are collecting data. It's being filtered out of our system. It comes in through the five senses, and it is filtered through our reticular activating system, which then only supports the data that's in there. So as we're making faulty conclusions, as we're assuming that someone looked at us a certain way because we're not valuable, as we collect data and draw conclusions, those conclusions, or those belief systems, as everyone calls limiting beliefs, those conclusions draw and direct our entire lives. So in order to transform our lives, everybody thinks it's this big deal, that we have to work so hard, that we have to do so much. We don't. We barely have to do anything. We have to stop and do less. That will change our life for sure. So stop. You want peace? Do less. And I'm not talking about being a go-getter, because that's what I am. I'm a go-getter and I'm going to get shit done. I'm talking about being awake and aware in the moment that you're in, taking full command of an understanding of what is happening inside your body, which is actually an external thing to you as a human, as a being, and not being in a reactive state to your thoughts, your feelings, and your beliefs. The only way to not be in a reactive state to any of those things, the only way to do that is to be aware of them. So first we begin with awareness. You guys hear me say constantly, be awake and aware in the now, without judgment, in a state of peace. When you are awake, when we are awake, we are awakened to the fact that we have a whole system going on in our body that is creating thoughts, feelings, and beliefs that we are following. So you want to be awakened to that. The next step is you want to be aware. Being aware means you have insight, that you hear the thoughts, that you are a wise observer who recognizes what is happening with your thinking, with your feeling, and with your beliefs. So this awareness makes you not take it so seriously. So, for example, if you hear another human being talking and you hear them saying a bunch of stuff that's a bunch of malarkey, the number one thing you're going to do is, if you're aware of it, you're not going to take it as seriously. It's the same thing with ourselves. When we start to see that a thought comes in that's inaccurate, that doesn't align with where we want to go in our lives, we do not take it seriously. Then we put on our creative cap and we create the thoughts that will drive us in the direction that we need to go. We also are aware of the feelings that we feel the most, that our body will draw us back into over and over and over again, because our body requires homeostasis. Our body requires a baseline. So if you've practiced depression, if you've practiced anxiety, if you've practiced worry, if you've practiced crisis, chaotic, internal emotional states, your body, when you move away from them, your body will put you in a state of withdrawal. You'll experience withdrawal, and your body will draw you back into it through thoughts, through making you focus in on the things that will draw in anxiety, chaos, fear, etc. What I want you to think about is that now you understand the thoughts. They're going to be there no matter what, until you create a thought system that is built enough. It's built enough pathways that the other thought system that's already laid in your neurological system, until that one, the new one is created, this one will be repeating until it becomes obsolete, and until it becomes less powerful in its pathways, in its ability to fire. Every time we fire with a new created thought that is aligned with who we want to be, where we want to go, what we want to do, as soon as we do that, and we keep doing that repeatedly, guess what? We create a system that fires more often than the other system. It becomes habitual because we are automated beings. And when we do that, voila, you make the other system obsolete. The times that the thoughts will pop up that will be when we are in a high stress situation, when we revert back to a default mechanism. So there's a few things I want to draw in to this conversation. I talked about being awake, aware. We also need to be in the now. Being in the now is everything. It is the antidote to fear. Fear, I believe, is the number one destroyer of life. Fear is, if you look at anger, anger is a secondary emotion. And typically it's a secondary emotion to fear. If you think about any time that you felt angry, any time that you felt stress, any time that you felt frustrated, ask yourself the question, what is the threat? What am I afraid of? A lot of times we don't want to admit that. We don't want to use that language, but we need to learn to understand ourselves. And we're not going to get anywhere until we do. So tough. If you don't like the thought of being afraid, you're going to have to get past that if you want to have a different life. Most things that make us act in a way that we do not like about ourselves have to do with fear. And when we have fear, we go into a survival mechanism, a survival mode, which creates chronic stress. So it is very important that we are awake and aware in the now. Being in the now, there's nothing, all fear is future-based. So when I'm sitting here, the moment that I'm in, my head, heart, and feet all in the same spot, I am in the now. When I am in the now, fear has no power, because all fear, think about it, is about even the second that you're about to be in. That's where fear lies. All depression, all darkness, all uncertainty, insecurity, it's lodged in your body in the present moment, but it's about yesterday. It's about a yesterday interpretation. So any insecurity was already built there before. So when we stay in the now, in the moment that we're in, and we tell ourselves, I'm safe now. Where I am right now, there's not a crisis happening. And even if what you're perceiving as a crisis is a crisis, right? What you can understand is the fear that you're feeling is about what the crisis is going to do or how people are going to think about you. The driving factor behind all of us, and this is where authenticity comes in. I need you to hear this, and I need you to put on your big ears, your thinking caps, and I want you to really hone in on this fact. There are two kinds of people on this earth. There are people who are in need and know it, and there are people who are in need and do not know it. There are people who struggle and know it, and there are people who struggle and don't know it. Now, hear what I'm telling you when I say that. I'm not talking about martyrdom. I'm not talking about struggling like, oh, everything's horrible. No, I'm talking about having to manage an inner world that fluctuates, having to manage the storms that come and go inside of our bodies and our minds and our thinking and our feeling and our core beliefs. I'm talking about there is no one on this earth. I don't care how successful you are. I don't care how far you've come. There is no one on this earth who is not in need. There is no one on this earth who does not have vulnerable times, difficult times, uncertainty. There is no one on this earth that doesn't have that. They either know it or they don't know it. And what I want you to understand is that I have dark times. I have times that confuse me. I have times where I want to quit. I have times where I want to roll myself up, and I say funny things like, oh, I want to fold myself up into a little package and throw myself in the garbage or put myself under the covers because I don't want to face life. I have times when I walk into a CVS and I have so much anxiety that I don't even know what to do and I don't know where it came from. What I want you to understand, I have times where I just feel like life has no meaning. What I want you to get is that those are the times when we're triggered. Those are the times where our vulnerability kicks up. And if we're not honest and open, when we share these things with other people and they get us and they say, yes, I have felt that as well, we then are not alone. We can go into the parts of ourselves that are hurting. We can go into the parts of ourselves that are afraid. What I ask myself often when I have a bad feeling or when I feel like I'm just like thinking the wrong thoughts, I ask myself, Alison, what are you afraid of? What is it? What's a threat right now? And most people, if you really ask yourself that question, you might find yourself saying, I don't want other people to think badly of me. I don't want to be hurt. I don't like who I am. I don't know who I am. Think about the things that come up for you. You know, one of the things I'm certain of is that I have core beliefs that have been embedded of me. They're default mechanisms. And those core beliefs tell me very simple things. And when I am awake and aware in the now, and I hear them, I know what they are. I know that they're an old belief. And those old beliefs, when they rise up, it is my responsibility to stay in the moment and be a wise observer and look at them and say, do they align with where I want to go? So most people's core beliefs that are somewhere embedded in them are that I am not good enough, or I am less than this person, or I am more than this person, because most of us feel very, very uncomfortable being different and being unique. And we live in a comparative society where I can only be better than you or less than you. I cannot be aligned with you. I cannot be uniquely powerful and filled with sparks and delight that are nothing like your sparks and your delight. And in order to get anywhere in our life, we have to be able to look at and understand our vulnerabilities and not be afraid of them, and be able to say, yes, you know what? I learned when I was a young girl that the world is a scary place, and I'm the only one who can ensure my own safety. I learned very young through neglect and abuse and tragedy that continued to show up, because when no one is in charge of a young child, unfortunately, that is what happens. So I learned at a very young age how to be fiercely independent and autonomous. And I also learned how to do shit on my own. And I also learned how to be resilient and how to be on fire for change and growth. I also believed that I could do anything because I had to do everything. But at the same time, I learned that if I didn't do it, I was not safe. I also learned that I had to be aware of everything that was around me because there was no one who had my back. I also learned that I could get all the way to the edge of success. I would climb, I would fight my way to the top of anything. I could get a 4.0 in college. I could look the best. I could act the best. I could be the funniest, but I would never get what other girls got. And that was a belief system that was embedded in me. You can do the work, but you will not receive the prize. And that belief system has created outcomes for me repeatedly in my life. What I want you to understand is that if you become awake and aware to those facts, those belief systems that are inside of you, and you start to go into them, and I'm going to tell you on another podcast, I'm going to explain to you the exact process. Believe me, I have struggled through despair to triumph over and over again in my life. And I have discovered the way in which to overcome these battles. And I'm going to share them with you as soon as you tune into our next show. Gotta go. Have an appointment. Love you all.